Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek, the original series, Season 2, Episode 19. It's called A Private Little War. Full spoilers for the episode, as always. So, this is an episode that I was not looking forward to. Why, you might ask? Just simply because I was making the thumbnails, and I saw one of the screenshots that I used, and I went, oh, this looks like a bad one. This looks like primitive, civilization on a planet. Those episodes usually suck. And the funny thing is that I feel like this episode is really conflicting because there's some really good ideas in there.
Yeah, it's definitely not playing the same old trope that we're used to with those primitive cultures.
The actual core plot is actually a very, very strong idea. And that core plot is it's this primitive culture. And it's kind of no-go zone, and Kirk was here before, back when he was a lieutenant, back in one of his first sort of travels, and they didn't interfere. And this place was known for being very peaceful. All the people who lived here never had any conflict. They were very peaceful. They never even understood what fighting was, and that was great. It's like paradise. This is great. However, they've split into two tribes, and one side has very primitive guns, what they're calling fire sticks. That's what they're calling. And the theory in the episode, which does turn out to be true, is that the Klingons, who are also interested in this planet, are basically teaching one side how to fight and giving them weapons. And just primitive enough that it looks like they could be making them, but they're influencing things. And the dilemma then becomes, well, what do we do? Can we stop them from being violent and roll back, or do we just have to take the other side of people who are still trying to be peaceful and make sure they're equally armed so that the balance of power is restored, even if it is kind of the end of the peace that it was, because now we always have to have maybe there'll be conflict because
it's the idea that, okay, no, there's gonna be an arms race now. Even if we give them something that equals them, they will advance past this to try and outdo the other now that there is a conflict.
Yeah, that's just really interesting. That's a great idea. Unfortunately, there's also stuff where Kirk gets poisoned, and the mysterious witch woman who is married to the head of the tribe kind of like owns his soul or something, and and there's a lot of that bullshit. I don't know.
So you've got Kirk out of commission for about a quarter of the episode. You got Spock out of commission for about half.
I'd say more than half. He's out for 70% or something like that, 80%.
Yeah, that's fair. And so it feels like, okay, we're really going in on this conflict, as we're not even really focusing on our cast that much. But then it still tries to do things with the cast because, of course, you have to, and that's the stuff that actually suffers the most because it's like they feel shoehorned into the story almost at points.
Yeah, and actually, at least some of it, obviously, the dilemma and Kirk sort of how he solves it is definitely the interesting
but
part.
They were like, no, we need to have more plot for them. They have to have something as well as that.
Yeah, and I think the other problem, though, from that perspective, is that the characters in the actual tribe are not that interesting. Tyree, the leader of the tribe, he's
boring.
He's boring.
And he's not doing anything wrong, but it's just there.
And as per usual with these primitive cultures, they've got these stupid wigs on, and just the way they've designed them to have this kind of look, it feels like sometimes with these types of episode, I feel like, oh, we're not going to give them a cool design because we thought of something that's going to be fun or it's going to be unique. It's like, no, we can't just make them look like normal humans. We have to give them something weird.
Yeah.
And it usually never works. It's always kind of goofy, and it takes me out of the episode and just feels like, no, this is just a bunch of people in stupid wigs.
Pretty much.
And then there's a stupid monster that actually poisons Kirk, which is this furry-looking stupid thing.
Yeah. But that's the thing again out here is the characters themselves aren't interesting. It's just the concept that's good.
Yeah. The concept's the best part. And, when you actually see the Klingon with the head of the other tribe, and the head of the tribe's talking about how good killing feels and how good the hunt is, and he's really getting into it, and the Klingons really corrupted him. And Kirk's whole thing is well, unfortunately, we just have to arm this side as well, so there's balance. It's just he even references the arms race of the Cold War.
Yeah, it's going, well, if we arm them, they won't get wiped out.
Yeah, and the others won't shoot as quickly because they can be shot back. Like, they're not just as
there's repercussions.
Yeah, it's a good idea. It's a good sort of thing to explore, and the idea of losing it is kind of devastating because no doubt the world would be a better place if we couldn't fight. So
obviously we've done the mutually assured destruction stuff on Trek before, but this is a very different version because this is, instead of going bigger, it pares it back and goes, okay, we're going to go smaller in scale to, two tribes, really basic weapons, but the principle's still there of, okay, no, we won't attack each other because, we're both going to suffer then, rather than just one side.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, that's where the positives kind of end.
Yeah.
And the rest of it's your same goofy stuff. Your same sort of, like, they've got this wacky culture that no one seems to understand all that well. And you've got, like... And I'm assuming there's supposed to be some sort of message to read from the fact that the woman, the sort of the witch, if you will, who heals Kirk and is constantly wanting to be armed and get better weapons. Oh, you've got better than what they've got. You've got your lasers and all the rest of it. You come from the sky. You've got all the fancy things. And she steals Kirk's phaser at one point, and she runs out, and then this other tribe grab a hold of her, and she tries, I'm going to sell you this. So she's villainous in the end. She actually tries to sell them and say, I'll be like, let me join your tribe and I'll give you this even better weaponry. I'll be this. She's essentially one of these smarmy arms dealers in the middle.
Essentially,
here. Yeah, she's a war profiteer, which I guess is as deep as it goes. But I'm assuming the fact that she immediately gets kind of killed. They basically don't believe her. She tries to maintain control at the moment, and the guy's just kind of, because that's the other thing. The Klingons are apparently also teaching them how to be extremely sexist, and because they're talking about women as a prize. And it's like, give them to the one who killed the most, and then they'll understand that there's benefits to the spoils of war and blah blah blah. And it feels like that's what they're going to do to her, and she sort of fights back, but she gets killed. She dies.
Yeah.
And it's just maybe it's just another casualty, and it's just showing that this is what happens when everyone starts fighting. Like, this is why you
everyone suffers.
But that's the thing, is that Tyree, the whole episode, he doesn't want to be using a gun. He's like, no, I don't want this thing. He throws it down on the ground. He doesn't want it. And then at the end, though, when this is his wife, we should mention, is killed. He's like, give me guns so that we can fight them and kill them all. Like, he's out for vengeance, and. Kirk is smart enough that he knows that this is past the point of return. There's...
That's, a lot of the stuff with Kirk is him and McCoy kind of debating whether this is the right course of action to go down. And Kirk's always kind of falls on this side of, no, this is probably the best thing to do.
And I think it is. And it does kind of make you hate the Klingons a little bit, because without the Klingon influence... this may not have happened at all.
It's actually a very cynical episode, like you say, because we go, Kirk's probably right, but it's sad that that's the right option.
Yeah, no,
because it's one of those that there's a necessity to an arms race.
McCoy's never happy about it, even when he understands that he's not happy. And when Kirk calls up and says, "Hey, Scotty, I need you to make me 100 of these guns," he's like, "Wait, what? I didn't hear you right there, sir. You want me to do what?"
Yeah.
So everyone's kind of reacting the correct way, and the ending's kind of this sort of down moment where Kirk just sort of ponders that this is just the way it's always going to have to be, and we cut to credits. It's a very downbeat moment. There's no joke at the end,
no banter.
Yeah, there's none of that. It's a very
it's a very cynical look at like the mutually assured destruction. Everyone having nuclear weapons,
and of course
it's very much going. Well, we see why we need this because everyone's equal, but we don't really like it. But it's just the way it is now.
And let's not overlook the fact, of course, this was the late 60s when this was made and came out. I think that's obviously very relevant.
Yeah.
I mean, this was, maybe 5-6 years removed from the Cuban Missile Crisis?
Even now, there's a lot of people who will say, we don't like this, but that's just the way it is. Of course, you have people fight for nuclear disarmament. But even a lot of those people will agree that it doesn't work unless everyone disarms.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's the problem. It's but what can we do unless everyone agrees and is level?
Because correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm mixing up my history here, but there was someone instrumental to developing the nuclear bomb that intentionally give it to the Soviets, right?
Quite possibly.
I think that I vaguely remember hearing that in school.
I never had that in school, but that sounds perfectly plausible to me. It's like someone smart enough to recognize this needs to be equal.
Yeah, I think it was because we did the Cold War, and I'm sure that was something that was brought up. But I can't remember. It's been too long now.
Yeah,
But
I never studied that, but it sounds right.
it sounds reasonable. The idea that if the opposing force has the same weapons, it'll stop the one who has them already from just throwing them out every chance they get.
Exactly.
Especially given what already happened to Japan as well.
Yeah,
Like,
it's the fear of retaliation that makes them hesitant.
and to be fair, up until now, certainly up until the end of the Soviet Union, there was no nuclear bombs launched. So
It wasn't. It's worked so far.
so far,
Yes, yes. Well, one certain madman might be changing things, but
two madmen. Let's not say one. There's
well, okay. There is two, but one just had like fresh sanctions imposed.
sure, but we have two children with their fingers over the button now, and it's
Yeah,
terrifying. But
yeah.
but
Why is this episode so relevant again?
oh god, I know. But the reason why I brought that up was it's Kirk's almost like the allegory for that decision here.
He is.
In a weird way. So I mean that's definitely that's what we've mostly talked about because it's by far the most interesting thing.
Yeah, it's
in the
definitely
episode.
where the episode is best. When it's doing that stuff, it's legitimately good.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean.
Too much time with all the other bollocks.
It is, yeah. It's the thing. Like we spend like 10 minutes setting up, and then Kirk gets poisoned, and then for about 5 to 10 minutes, it's all about trying to cure Kirk. And go find Tyree and find his wife, and we're interested in his wife, and his wife's with him, and she's got like a spell on him. She's like rubbing him with leaves and being like, "Oh, you
Yeah.
love me forever," blah 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 blah. And then and then we eventually get Kirk healed, and she like witnesses McCoy like heating up all the rocks to keep Kirk warm because he's cold and he's shivering. And that's the thing. I mean, there's some.
And you've got Kirk making out with her at some point because Kirk has to make out with a woman.
Of course, of course. She's very forceful in this sense, though. He's not trying to.
He's not. It's his friend's wife, but
Yeah, he's supposed to be friends with Tyree. And then in the ship, of course, you have Spock, out cold, sick from being shot or whatever earlier on in the episode. And there's some wacky stuff in there with Nurse Chapel, who's clearly got a crush on Spock, holding his hand during it. And there's a funny moment where the Doctor comes in and is like, yeah, Vulcans are actually very aware when this is all going on. He probably even knew you were holding his hand. And
yeah, he's in a self-induced coma just to preserve energy, but he's got awareness.
Yeah, the moment where like he says to her like, "Hey, if he starts to speak, do whatever he says, no matter what it is. Do whatever he says." And when he does start to speak, he's like, "Hit me," and she starts hitting him. And then Scotty walks in. He's like, "What are you doing, woman? Are you mad?" And then the Doctor like slaps him in the face like 5 times until eventually the hand comes up. He's like, "That'll be enough, Doctor. Thank you."
Yeah.
Just
that stuff's comical. It's just you wait far too long for it. With
Yeah,
with Spock out.
You wait far too long, and there's not a whole lot to it. It's just entertaining. Like, is there a purpose why Spock's like missing for most of the episodes? Can you think of why they felt the need to take him out of the main story? Because he's normally there. He's normally
He is normally there. I wonder if it is they wanted just the two viewpoints of Kirk and McCoy. They wanted it to be less logical and more just on feeling and their debate there. Mm-hmm. So okay, Spock's too logical. We don't want to murky this up with cold hard facts. We want to be on feeling sometimes.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe it's just the idea that we're tackling such a real, especially for the time, world problem. We don't want to be belittling by having an alien with his weird alien logic sort of messing it up. We want two human beings discussing and debating this. But I mean,
it sounds plausible, but it's yeah.
To me, what would have made it more interesting if Spock was there saying, "No, on a pure logic basis, this is what makes sense."
Yeah, and it would be interesting to see him go, "Oh, pure logically, this is what makes sense." But then maybe they argue against him. Be like, but yeah, but just because it's logical doesn't mean it's right. I mean, we've had that a few times, but
yeah. So some good ideas in here, but it adds up to a kind of muddled episode overall.
It does. It's a shame because it has potential to be a really great one.
It does. Unfortunately, there's honestly, I'm trying to think of a single Star Trek episode where it's them on a planet with a civilization, like a primitive civilization that doesn't suck. I'm trying to think of one, and I can't.
This is the closest we've got.
This is the closest we've got.
And I think that's why this one's so frustrating to me, because I can see how, like most of them, I can just write them off, going, yeah, okay, it's
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
this. I don't care. This one, I can see it being a good episode. I can see this being a great episode, but it's just not there. It's just wasting time with other shit.
Yeah, no, I
It's
I, I
yeah,
concur. I did like that the Klingons were involved again. I like that they're really having them as an existing threat that's around all the time, and
yeah.
you know they
They're all
pop in and
they're
out.
out there. They're doing their things as well, even if we don't see it all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, I cannot wait for next gen just so the Klingons look like Klingons.
Better
Yeah.
is the word you're looking
Or
for.
not even the next gen. I think we get proper Klingons in the
Movies,
movies at some
yeah,
point because they're in at least the sixth movie, from memory. Probably more as well, but definitely the sixth one.
cool.
Uh, but no, I guess that wraps that up. So that has been episode 19 of season 2 of Star Trek. Let us know what you thought of this one. The comments, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. You can do that over there. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.